Okay, welcome back to our cookery class. So for today's lesson, we're going to discuss the definition and characteristics of eggs. Again, so for today's lesson, we're going to discuss the definition and characteristic of eggs. In cookery, egg refers to poultry or fowl products from chickens, ducks, goose, and quails that are eaten as food. Eggs are an important source of protein, essential vitamins and minerals, and can make a significant contribution to a healthy diet. So, unclassified egg, it refers to chicken eggs since they are the most widely consumed in the country and in the other countries. So, as it has been mentioned, class, chicken eggs are the most popular and the most widely consumed eggs of the world. The reason for it is that chickens are more common than any other birds and getting grasp of their eggs is easy. The shell of chicken eggs is mostly white. However, some breeds may also have slightly brown shells. Chicken eggs can be consumed in boiled form, in fried form, in omelettes, and in a vast variety of dishes. Next, we have duck egg. It is the second most popular egg. Duck eggs are much larger than a hen's eggs and have a stronger flavor. They are slightly higher in fat, protein, and cholesterol and are also higher in iron and vitamins A, B group, and D. Duck eggs can generally be used in cooking in the same ways as a hen's eggs, although the same or the strong flavor should be kept in mind. For safety, however, it is best not to use them in recipes that require lightly cooked eggs. So, commonly class, duck egg is sold in the form of salted egg or itlog na maalat, balot, and penoy. Next to it is goose egg. These are the largest of all the eggs you are likely to find on sale. They have a similar flavor and nutritional profile to a hen's eggs and can be used in all hen's egg recipes and basic dishes. So they are likely to be free range. Next, we have quail eggs. Quail eggs are as equally popular as ducks. These are tiny with a pretty speckled shells and a delicate flavor. Almost all quail eggs sold are from battery farm birds. They have a similar nutritional composition to hen's eggs, with a 6 quail eggs being roughly equivalent to a single hen's egg. So meaning class, if you eat 6 pieces of quail egg, it is equivalent to 1 chicken egg. So quail eggs are mostly used in exquisite cuisines. Quail eggs are really special as not only they taste good, but they have a large quantity of proteins and vitamins and contain only 14 calories. Okay, after identifying the different sources of eggs, as we have mentioned, those are chicken eggs, duck eggs, quail eggs, and goose eggs, which are those are the four common sources of eggs. Now, let's talk about the different composition of egg. So, bloom. When we say bloom class, this is the egg's protective coating or mucin layer which aids in the maintenance of its freshness by covering the small holes in the shell. So, as you can see, if you're going to look at the egg, there is a presence of small holes. So bloom is removed during washing, so it's not advisable to wash eggs prior to storage unless it is very dirty. So removal of the mucin layer will expose the holes, making the egg susceptible to bacterial penetration and dehydration, thus hastening deterioration of its quality. So meaning class, it is not advisable to wash the eggs coming from the market before its storage. So it will hasten deterioration of its quality. Okay, next. Eggs are produced commercially in farms with a few hundred laying chickens or in large laying complexes with thousands of layers. So when we say layers class, that is a specific type of chicken which is designed for laying eggs. So, small and micro-sized backyard poultry either in a small poultry cages or as free-range chicken are also producing eggs. So, egg is indeed a convenient food for any meal in and out of the house. So again, eggs can be produced commercially or in a small and micro-sized backyard. Okay, now let's talk about the physical structure and composition of eggs. So, what is the structure of an egg? So, as you can see, there are different parts of an egg and it is composed of different nutrients. Okay, so as you can see, egg is not just an egg. It has a different parts. As you can see, class, we have shell from the outer part, shell, then thin albumen, followed by chalaza, thick albumen, we have germinal disc or blastodisc, the vitelline yolk or membrane, we have yolk, the chalaza, the inner shell membrane, outer shell membrane, and air cell. So what are the functions of those parts of an egg? So let's talk about that. Okay, first let's talk about shell. Shell, that is the egg's outer covering. The shell accounts for about 9 to 10% of its total weight depending on egg size. So the shell is the egg's first line of defense against bacterial contamination. The shell is produced by the shell gland or the uterus of the oviduct and has an outer coating, the bloom, the mucin or the cuticle. So the mucin glass, it is somewhat seals the pores and is useful in reducing moisture losses and in preventing bacterial penetration of the shell. So as you can see, shell that is the number one defense of the egg. Now let's talk about air cell. Air cell, this is the empty space between the white and shell at the large end of the egg, which is barely existent in newly laid egg. When an egg is first laid, of course, it is warm. As it cools, the contents contract and the inner shell membrane separate from the outer shell membrane to form the. Okay, next part of an egg is albumen or egg white. So albumen class, it is also called egg white. It accounts for most of an egg's liquid weight, about 57%. This is produced by the oviduct and consists of four alternating layers of thick and thin consistencies. So from the yolk outward, they are designated as the inner thick or chalaziferous white, the inner thin white, the outer thick white, and the outer thin white. So again, it is consists of four alternating layers, namely the inner thick, the inner thin white, the outer thick white, and the outer thin white. So the outer thin white class, it is a narrow fluid layer next to the shell membrane. While the outer thick white naman, it is a gel that forms the center of the albumen. The inner thin white is a fluid layer located next to the yolk. Then the inner thick white or the chalaziferous layer, it is a dense, matted, fibrous capsule terminates on each end in the chalazae, which are twisted in the opposite direction and serve to keep the yolk centered. Okay, next part is chalaza. So this is the ropey strands of egg white at both sides of the egg, which anchor the yolk in place in the center of the thick white. So they are sometimes mistaken for egg imperfections or beginning embryos, which of course they are not. So the twist in the chalaza is meant to keep the germinal disc always on top, whichever way egg may turn. So the more prominent the chalaza, the fresher is the egg. So again, when we say chalaza, that is a ropey strand that holds the egg both sides. And the more prominent the chalaza, the fresher is the egg. Okay, next part is germinal disc. This is the entrance of latibra, the channel leading to the center of the yolk. So the germinal disc, it is barely noticeable as a slight depression on the surface of the yolk. When the egg is fertilized, sperm enter by way of the germinal disc, travel to the center, and a thick embryo starts to form. So since stable eggs are not fertilized, this is not as easy to recognize as when the egg is fertilized. So as you can see class on the picture, that is the slight depression at the center of the yolk or a tiny dot or a color white dot at the center of the yolk. That is what we call germinal disc. Now, Now let's proceed to membranes. So let's talk about the membranes of the egg. So there are two kinds of membranes. One just under the shell and the other is covering the yolk. These are the shell membrane and the vitelline membrane. So as you can see on the picture, the shell membrane is the outer part and the latter one is the one that cover the egg yolk. Just inside the shell, there are two shell membranes, the inner and outer. The air cell formed due to the contraction of egg as it cool is found between the two layers of its shell membrane. So the outer membrane class, it sticks to the shell while the inner membrane sticks to the albumen. During storage, the egg loses water by evaporation, so it causing the egg or the air cell to enlarge. Then the vitelline membrane, it is the covering that protects the yolk from the breaking. So the vitelline membrane, it is the weakest at the germinal disc and tend to become more fragile as the egg ages. So every cook has experienced that the yolk of eggs that are no longer fresh easily break. So meaning if an egg yolk is can be easily break, meaning it is no longer fresh. Okay, next, let's talk about yolk. So, the yolk or the yellow to yellow orange portion makes up about 33% of the liquid weight of the egg. The yolk is formed in the ovary. On the surface of the yolk glass, there is a small white spot about 2 mm in diameter. This is the germinal disc and it is present even the egg is infertile. So that is what I'm talking about a while ago, a slight depression at the center of the yolk, that is the germinal disc. So the yolk material serves as a food source for embryonic development. It contains all the fat in the egg and a little less than half of the protein. So the main protein in the egg yolk is vitelline, a lipoprotein, it is also contains phosphine, which is high in phosphorus and has antioxidant properties, and lecithin, which is high in sulfur. So we can find three types of protein. First, the vitellin, that is a lipoprotein. Next one is the phosphine, which is high in phosphorus and antioxidant properties, and lecithin, which is high in salt. Okay, what makes up an egg? So, what is the composition of an egg? It is composed of water, protein, fat, and ash. For whole egg class, it is composed of 65.5% of water. It is composed of 11.8% protein, 11% fat, and 11.7 ash. Then albumen, it is composed of 88% water, 11% of protein, 0.2% of fat, and 0.8% of ash. For yolk, it is composed of 48% water, 17.5% protein, 32.5% of fat, and 2% of ash. So as you can see, class, a whole egg a whole egg is composed of water, protein, fat, and ash. Okay, now let's talk about the nutritive value of egg. So, egg is indeed one of nature's complete food. Wow, that is one of nature's complete food. Take note of that, class. So, it contains high quality protein with all the essential amino acids, all of the vitamins except vitamin C and many minerals. So, egg products are particularly good for fortifying food low in protein quality. Except for mother's milk, egg provide the best protein naturally available. So, egg protein is often used as a reference standard for biological values of their proteins. Wow. So, as you can see, class, so that is one of the nature's complete food. So it contains a lot of vitamins and minerals and high quality proteins. Next to it is egg grading. So what is egg grading? Okay, when we say egg grading, class, that is a form of quality control used to classify eggs for exterior and interior quality. So in the Philippines, the grade designations are A, B, C, and D. Based on the standards set by the Bureau of Product Standards Philippines, so eggs are graded according to first, egg size. So the breed, the age of hen, the weight, the feeds, and the environmental factors, those are the several factors that influence the size of the egg. So as you can see, there are different sizes of eggs. So those are those sizes are affected by this: the breed, the age of hen, the weight, the feed that they intake, and the environmental factors. So commonly, class, native chickens have much smaller eggs than commercial breeds. So some commercial breeds have bigger eggs than others. So of the same breed, new layers tend to have smaller eggs compared to older hens. So pullets that are significantly underweight at sexual maturity will also produce small eggs. Then, better feed hens lay larger eggs than underfeed ones. So, if you want to have a bigger egg size of if you want to have a bigger egg size, you need to feed your hens properly. Then the environmental factors that lead to smaller eggs are the heat, the stress, and overcrowding. Okay, so technically the egg size is based on weight in grams. So commonly in the market, we can see the very small, the small, the medium size, large size, the extra large size, and the jumbo size of egg. So when we say jumbo class, it is 69 grams or more. Then extra large, it is 62 to 68 grams. Large, that is 55 to 61 grams. Then medium, that is 48 to 54 grams. Then small, that is 41 to 47 grams. And very small, that is less than 41 grams. Okay? Next consideration in grading egg is the color of the egg. It is sometimes it is mixed in color. There are lots of dots. Then the brown egg and the white egg. Now let's talk about the egg quality. So when we say egg quality class, it has two general components, the shell quality and the interior quality. So the interior egg quality has direct bearing on the functional properties of eggs, while shell quality has direct influence on microbiological quality. So the four standard qualities for eggs are, yes, A, B, C, and D, depending on the exterior and interior qualities of egg. So as you can see, the exterior quality is based on the appearance of the shell. If it is smooth, rough, dirty, or clean. While the interior quality, it is based on the egg's air cell, egg white, and yolk. Okay, when we say egg quality, again, that has the two general components, the shell quality and the interior quality. Now, how to determine if an egg is still fresh? So there are methods used to determine the freshness of eggs. So these are gross examination, candling, by clicking, by shaking, by water test, and by breaking. So first, let's talk about gross examination. When we say gross examination, the fresh eggs have rough, dull-looking shells. So meaning, once you see that the egg has a rough shell, a dull-looking shell, meaning that is a fresh egg. Then, second method is by candling. How to do the candling? Hold the egg against the light. Then fresh eggs have yolk at the center, the small air sac, and no blood spots. So again, hold the egg against the light. Then fresh eggs have yolk at the center, and then it has a small air sac and no blood spots. Next, by clicking. Click two eggs. The fresh one have a bell-like tone. So again, by clicking, just click the two eggs. Then the fresh ones have a bell-like tone. Next is by shaking. Shaking means fresh eggs do not rattle noticeably while a stale one rattles easily. So if you shake the egg and as you can see there is a changes inside the egg meaning that is a stale one. So it rattle easily. Next is by water test. Water test meaning the fresh egg sinks while a stale one floats. So if you're going to do the water test, so as you can see, the fresh egg, it will sink and the stale one will float. Next one is by breaking. So fresh eggs have a clear, a thick, firm, and gelatinous egg white. So the yolk is well rounded, high at mid-center, and does not break easily. So remember, so if a fresh egg Remember class, in breaking, so the yolk is well rounded, high at mid-center, and does not break easily. So again, those are the method that we use in determining the freshness of eggs. So we have gross examination, we have candling, by clicking, by shaking, by water test, and by break. Okay, so do you have any question, class?